They told you that blood is everything, that it is sacred, unbreakable, unquestionable. They taught you to bow your head in silence, to endure in the name of loyalty, to forgive in the name of family. But what they never told you is how heavy that silence becomes when it starts to suffocate you. What they never warned you about is the quiet ache of sitting in a room full of your own blood and still feeling completely alone. Because sometimes the deepest wounds are not inflicted by strangers. They are carved slowly, deliberately, by the hands you once trusted the most. You see, there is a dangerous illusion wrapped around the word family. It sounds warm, safe, untouchable. But for some, it is a place where love is conditional, where respect must be earned but never returned, where your worth is measured by how much pain you're willing to tolerate without breaking. And so you learn to shrink your voice, to swallow your truth, to carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. You become the peacekeeper, the silent sufferer, the one who smiles on the outside while quietly falling apart within. But tonight, something changes. Tonight we strip away the illusion. Tonight we confront the truth that has been buried beneath years of guilt and expectation. Because blood may connect you to people, but it does not define how they treat you. And love, real, genuine, unwavering love, does not demand your silence, your suffering, or your sacrifice at the cost of your own soul. The illusion of blood loyalty. They taught you from the very beginning that blood is sacred, that it binds people together in a way nothing else can. You were told that no matter what happens, no matter how deep the conflict, no matter how sharp the words or how cold the silence becomes, family is family. And so, you believed it. You carried that belief like a shield, thinking it would protect you. But what happens when that very shield begins to cut into your own skin? What happens when the loyalty you were taught to honor becomes the very thing that keeps you trapped in cycles of pain you never deserved? The illusion of blood loyalty is one of the most powerful ideas ever planted into the human mind, because it convinces you to stay, even when every part of your soul is quietly begging you to leave. You see, loyalty is supposed to be mutual. It is supposed to be built on respect, care, and a shared sense of protection. But when loyalty is demanded without being returned, it transforms into something else entirely. It becomes control. It becomes silence. It becomes the quiet acceptance of behavior that slowly chips away at your sense of self. And yet you stay, not because it feels right, but because you were taught that walking away would make you the villain, that choosing yourself over your own blood is somehow a betrayal. But here is the truth they never say out loud. Loyalty that only flows in one direction is not loyalty at all. It is captivity disguised as duty. There are people who will wear the title of family like a crown, using it to justify their actions, to excuse their behavior, to demand your forgiveness without ever earning it. They will remind you of who they are to you, but never stop to question who they have been for you. And that is where the illusion becomes dangerous, because it forces you to measure your worth by how much you can endure rather than how much you deserve. It conditions you to believe that love must be proven through suffering, that respect must be earned through silence, and that your role is to carry the weight of everyone else's expectations, no matter how heavy it becomes. But real loyalty does not demand your pain as proof. It does not ask you to sacrifice your peace just to maintain a connection that is already broken beneath the surface. Real loyalty stands beside you, not above you. It protects, it respects, it listens. And if those things are missing, then what you are holding on to is not loyalty. It is an illusion carefully built to keep you from seeing the truth. And the truth is this: blood may connect you to people, but it does not give them the right to diminish you, to control you, or to make you feel like your voice does not matter. The moment you begin to see through that illusion is the moment you begin to take your power back. When love becomes obligation, there is a quiet transformation that happens in certain relationships, so subtle, so gradual, that you don't even realize it at first. What once felt like love begins to feel like pressure. What once felt natural begins to feel forced. And before you can even put it into words, you find yourself carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours. This is where love loses its purity, where it stops being something freely given and starts becoming something silently demanded. You are no longer loving because your heart chooses to. You are loving because you feel like you have no other choice. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that saying no is disrespect, that setting boundaries is selfish, and that choosing your own peace somehow makes you ungrateful. And so, you give. You keep giving, even when it drains you. You show up, even when you feel invisible. You stay quiet, even when your mind is screaming with truths you are too afraid to speak. Because the moment you even think about pulling back, guilt steps in like a shadow. It whispers reminders of everything you owe, everything you've been given, everything you're expected to repay with your silence and your endurance. And slowly, without realizing it, love begins to feel less like a connection and more like a responsibility you can never escape, a role you were assigned without your consent. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Love that is real does not operate through guilt. It does not demand constant sacrifice while giving nothing in return. It does not make you feel like your worth is tied to how much of yourself you are willing to lose. When love becomes obligation, it stops nourishing you and starts consuming you. It becomes a cycle where your needs are always secondary, where your voice is always negotiable, and where your identity slowly fades beneath the expectations of others. You become the reliable one, the understanding one, the one who holds everything together, while quietly breaking inside. There are people who will never question this arrangement, not because they are unaware, but because it benefits them. As long as you continue to give without limits, as long as you continue to tolerate without resistance, the system remains intact. And they will call it love, because that word makes it easier to accept. But deep down, you can feel the difference. You can feel when something is genuine, and you can feel when something is being taken from you under the disguise of duty. And this is where your awakening begins. The moment you realize that love is not supposed to feel like a burden you carry alone, that you are allowed to say enough without feeling like you are abandoning anyone, that your boundaries are not walls, they are signs of self-respect. Because the truth is, you were never meant to earn love by exhausting yourself. Real love does not ask you to disappear. It allows you to exist fully and freely without fear of losing yourself in the process. The quiet pain no one sees. There is a kind of pain that does not announce itself. It does not scream, it does not shatter the room, it does not demand attention. Instead, it settles deep within you, like a slow, silent storm that no one else can hear. This is the pain of being hurt by your own blood. The kind that you cannot easily explain, the kind that people often dismiss with a simple sentence. But they're your family. And just like that, your reality is minimized, your wounds are overlooked, and your voice is gently pushed back into silence. Because how do you even begin to describe something so invisible? How do you explain that the people who were supposed to understand you the most are the very ones who made you feel the most misunderstood? So you learn to carry it quietly. You master the art of smiling at gatherings while your heart feels distant. You learn how to nod, how to agree, how to keep conversations light, even when there are 1,000 unspoken truths sitting heavy on your chest. You become careful with your words, selective with your emotions, constantly calculating what is safe to say and what must remain buried, because speaking up feels dangerous, not in a loud, obvious way, but in a subtle, emotional way. You fear being labeled as the problem, the ungrateful one, the one who creates issues where others see none. And so, you choose silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because you have learned that your truth may not be welcomed. But silence has a cost. It builds pressure over time. Every unspoken word, every dismissed feeling, every moment you chose peace over honesty, it all accumulates. And eventually, that quiet pain begins to shape you. It changes how you see yourself. It makes you question your own worth, your own perception, even your own sanity. You start wondering if maybe you are too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding. You begin to doubt your own experiences, simply because no one else acknowledges them. And that is the most isolating part of all. Not just the pain itself, but the feeling that you are completely alone in it. Yet the truth remains, whether anyone validates it or not. Your pain is real, Your experience is real. Just because it is not visible does not mean it does not exist. Just because others refuse to see it does not mean it should be ignored. And there is a quiet strength in recognizing that, in understanding that you do not need the world's permission to acknowledge what you have been through, that your healing does not depend on their understanding. Because the moment you stop denying your own pain is the moment you begin to reclaim your voice. And that voice, no matter how long it has been silenced, still holds power. It still holds truth. And one day, when you are ready, it will no longer whisper. It will finally be heard. Breaking the sacred lie. There is a belief so deeply rooted in society that it is rarely questioned. A belief passed down through generations, wrapped in respect, tradition, and fear. It tells you that family must be honored at all costs, that no matter what is said, no matter what is done, no matter how deeply you are hurt, you must endure, you must stay, you must forgive. This belief is presented as virtue, as strength, as moral duty, but beneath its surface lies a dangerous truth. It conditions you to tolerate what should never be tolerated. It teaches you that preserving the image of family is more important than protecting your own well-being. And so, without even realizing it, you become bound by a rule that was never meant to serve you, only to silence you. This is the sacred lie, the idea that walking away from harmful family dynamics makes you disloyal, disrespectful, or broken. It is a lie because it ignores one fundamental truth. Respect is not a one-way obligation. It cannot exist where there is constant dismissal, manipulation, or emotional neglect. And yet, you are told to keep giving it, endlessly, even when it is never returned. You are taught to question yourself instead of questioning the behavior that hurts you, to look inward for flaws while ignoring the patterns that continue to wound you. And over time, this belief becomes a cage, one that feels impossible to escape because the door is guarded by guilt. Guilt has a powerful voice. It reminds you of your role, your responsibilities, your place within the family structure. It tells you that leaving, distancing yourself, or even setting boundaries is a form of betrayal. It convinces you that your pain is a small price to pay for keeping everything together. But what exactly are you keeping together? A connection built on silence, a bond maintained through fear, a relationship that demands your presence but never values your voice. These are the questions the sacred lie hopes you never ask, because the moment you begin to question it, its power starts to fade. Breaking this lie is not easy. It requires you to unlearn everything you were conditioned to believe about loyalty, respect, and love. It requires courage, the kind that does not seek approval, the kind that stands firm even when misunderstood. Because the truth is, when you choose to step away from what harms you, you will not always be met with understanding. You may be judged, you may be criticized, you may even be painted as the one who changed. But what they call change is actually awakening. It is the moment you stop sacrificing your peace to maintain a narrative that was never built for your happiness. And here is the reality that sets you free. Honoring yourself is not a betrayal. Protecting your peace is not a crime. You are allowed to redefine what family means to you. You are allowed to choose relationships that are built on mutual respect, not silent endurance. Because love, in its truest form, does not demand that you lose yourself just to belong. The moment you break the sacred lie is the moment you finally begin to live in your truth, choosing peace over blood. There comes a moment in your life, quiet, almost unnoticeable at first, when something inside you shifts. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is undeniable. It is the moment you grow tired, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. Tired of explaining yourself, tired of hoping things will change, tired of carrying relationships that only seem to exist because you refuse to let them fall. And in that moment, a question begins to form, one you may have avoided for years. What about me? What about your peace? What about your sanity? What about the life you're slowly losing while trying to preserve connections that have never truly protected you? Choosing peace over blood is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of awakening. It is the realization that your well-being matters just as much as any title, any expectation, any tradition that was placed upon you. It is understanding that you cannot continue pouring from an empty soul, hoping that one day it will magically refill itself. Because the truth is, peace is not something that others can give you if they are the very source of your unrest. It is something you must choose, intentionally, courageously, even when it feels uncomfortable. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, because you have been conditioned to associate distance with guilt. You have been taught that stepping back means you are abandoning people, when in reality, you are simply refusing to abandon yourself any longer. There is a difference. A powerful, life-changing difference. Walking away from toxicity is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is recognizing that love should not feel like a constant battle, that connection should not come at the cost of your identity, and that peace should not be something you have to beg for in places that were supposed to offer it freely. When you begin to choose peace, something remarkable happens. The noise starts to fade. The constant tension, the unspoken expectations, the emotional weight you carried for so long, it begins to lift. You start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that were buried beneath years of compromise. And slowly, you realize that peace is not empty. It is full, full of clarity, full of strength, full of the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are no longer betraying your own needs. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean your heart becomes cold. It simply means your love becomes wiser, more selective, more honest. You learn that family is not just defined by blood, it is defined by behavior, by respect, by consistency. It is built through those who show up for you, who value you, who see you not as a role to fulfill, but as a person to be understood. And perhaps the most powerful truth of all is this: choosing peace is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your freedom. It is where healing starts. It is where your voice returns. It is where you finally step into a life that is not controlled by fear, guilt, or obligation, but guided by self-respect, clarity, and the courage to live on your own terms.